Thank you for joining us. And before we get started with today's video, if you guys like what you're seeing and hearing from the Locked On Senators podcast, go ahead and hit like, smash the subscribe button so you can be the first to know about Sens content. Now, we're going to be doing a ton of these prospect profiles, so if you agree this is someone the Sens should look at or steer clear, leave your comment below so we can hear from you. Now, we got 64 of these, so let's get into it.
All right, coming in at number 13 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft rankings. We're going back to the Ontario Hockey League. So a run of CHL defensemen concludes with Russian-born Pavel Mintyukov. What do you think about the big Russian kid?
He's very similar to Kevin Korchinski, which is great that we have them kind of side by side here.
Back to back.
Yeah, and Mintyukov is one of those guys that we talked about with Maciek, with Korchinski, that they're kind of the trio of left shot defensemen that teams are going to have their pick of which of these guys do we prefer for different reasons. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, for the listeners, I'll read out the stats, but very similar to Matejchuk and Korchinski. 67 games played, although 17 goals. He's putting up a lot more goals than these guys. 45 assists, good for 62 points. So all three of these guys passed the 60-point mark, which is pretty damn impressive, especially considering Mintyukov. He missed last year in the OHL. He was playing in Russia. He got a couple games in the MHL. Then he decided, I'm going to come over to North America. OHL shuts down for a year, unfortunately, but he made up for it big time as he was third in the OHL for points by a defenseman. So he came out with a bang.
Not only points, Billsy, 17 goals to his name. 45 assists, 28 penalty minutes. He's ranked as high as 7th on Craig Button and Elite Prospects list. But then the flip side, Scott Wheeler has him all the way down at 25. Tony Ferrari at 23. In the middle, we've got Corey Pronman at 18. Bob McKenzie at 16, and Chris Peters as well here at 17. So that's an average of 17.42. You referenced Russia, grew up in the Dynamo, easy for me to say, Moscow program. But this guy is unbelievable in transition. How many times did you watch him swoop behind the net? Goalie just stops it there for him. And next thing you know, it's bingo, bango, bongo, and there's a great scoring chance down at the other end of the ice. The Elite Prospects was just lauding that ability. And each one of their scouts has to put in their best transition defenseman. Mintyukov was second on David St. Louis' list, second on J.D. Burke, second on Daniel G., first on Mitch Brown's. So you get where I'm going with that. This guy, he thrives with the puck on his stick, especially coming out of his own zone and making the right read and giving the puck to the right guy in certain situations. So this is a player, I think we have the order just off. I would probably have, if it was my personal rankings, Matejchuk above Korchinski, but Mintyukov, I take over both of them.
Yeah, okay, that's where I'm at as well. And I think in our mock draft that you guys will watch later on, I was a little higher on Korchinski, but after looking at Mintyukov a little bit more, I would give him a slight edge for a couple reasons here. You mentioned his game in transition. Where he differs from Korchinski is Mintyukov, he doesn't do that cutback. He gets the puck and he's like, I'm going north, and I'm going north quickly, and he doesn't make any hesitations. Now, like Korchinski's approach, though, you got to take the good with the bad, because often he's able just to push past opponents that just simply aren't ready to contain his speed, or they're trying to get him to hesitate, but he just won't, and he makes smart, quick decisions. But when you're just going north all the time, you're going to end up forcing turnovers just because you're just trying to force things too much, and you're going to get caught eventually. You're going to get caught red-handed, and they're going to strip the puck and turn it over the other way. But he excels in the transition game, and what I like about him is he plays a give-and-go style type of transition game, which I think is underused in the NHL a lot now. Like, a lot of times, the defenseman just makes a big first pass, like, across their own blue line, and then that forward now just carries it from the red line and into the O-zone, which is fine. That's a good quick way to move the puck, but it doesn't exactly allow for a lot of creativity, and it becomes very easy to read and shut down if your opponents. Where Mintyuk, he really does a good job of having those give and goes, and he keeps things interesting so that it's not just a one-trick pony and teams aren't able to create defensive systems to just shut him down easily. So I think there's a lot of value to be had there.
There certainly is. He's ever improving as well. He took a little while to adjust when he came over, according to Scott Wheeler, but then he just absolutely blew up after that. Like the offense, as we mentioned, everything kind of pops with him. And I like what the shades of is for elite prospects here. John Carlson from the Washington
Okay.
Capitals, of course, a Norris nominee, like always around a point per game, it seems the last few years. But certainly they have shades of that. Now, a Western Conference scout tells elite prospects, quote, he's a wild stallion that
Yeah.
hasn't had the benefit of playing in structured coaching. He's got all the tools to be a difference maker, but needs some proper development that he won't get in Saginaw. Whoa, little shot at the Saginaw development
I mean,
system.
fair shot. Like,
Can't really tell you any Saginaw Spirit players that are dominating the NHL.
no, none are really coming to mind, if I'm being honest. And yeah, that's the thing with Pavel Mintyukov is that he was thrown into a team that was very bad. Only the Niagara team did worse than them in the OHL. They did not make the playoffs. And it was his first year playing over in North America, and he was able to thrive like this. And EP, like you mentioned, they give little awards here, and they gave him the top offensive defenseman award in this draft. And you mentioned some comparables. Corey Pronman compared him to Brandon Montour. I like that as well. I think that one works for him here. And he's just like, I love the wild stallion analogy, because it's like, at the rodeo when there's like a bucking bronco and they're like stuck in the gate, and then they just like give him one last like push, and then they open the gate and he's going crazy and no one knows what he's going to do. That's what happens here.
Okay, can I get way off topic again?
Yeah, do it. That's what we do.
So Cole Perfetti, we got to give a little shout out. Saginaw Spirit.
Yeah, see, I didn't even think of that.
2 guests of Locked On Senators. Cody Bass and Paul Bissonnette.
Yes, yeah, I forgot Biz played there. Yep.
And are you ready for the cherry on top? Or should I say the cherry on Tom? Pyatt, a Saginaw Spirit alumni as well. But yes, getting back to Mintyukov, I think that it's perfect. He was voted by Elite Prospects as the best offensive defenseman in the draft. Period. More than Nemec, more than Jiricek. The number 1 offensive defenseman in the draft, second best defenseman in transition, and the 4th best vision. Ironically, Elite Prospects' lowest grade on him is his shot that contributed 17 goals last season. Just imagine what he would have put up in the OHL, Pillsy, if he had that extra year of development last season. So what's he going to do next? I think it's going to be a super interesting conversation to have, because is he a guy who's going to go to the AHL right away, right? Because those overseas players that come to the OHL, they're not destined to be sent back necessarily to that league. So he could step in and maybe get that better coaching that this one scout thinks he needs. But with Scott Wheeler, he just wants to see a little bit more in his own zone from him. And I understand that too. But with a wild stallion, you don't put them in a farm, right? You have to let them run wild and do their thing. So I think that he's a guy who's going to need to be in the right system at the NHL level. Like, he can't be in on Barry Trotz's coach team. It's just not going to fit him. He needs to be in a run and gun. Like, imagine him on Colorado, the way those defensemen always work in transition. He needs to be put in a situation to succeed. And if he is, this guy's going to be a stud. I just don't know if Ottawa's the place for him.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. And I think the difference, though, from me comparing EP's kind of vision of Korchinski versus Mintyukov here is the fact that EP, as their scouting reports get later and later into the season, a lot of their comments were applauding his improvement on defense. Whereas with Korchinski, we didn't see that. Like, it just remained that he was still a liability, still putting up big points, but he's not helping out on defense. Whereas there's a lot more improvement defensively going on here.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if we mentioned too. Left shot, 6'2", 194 pounds. So I mean, he's got that bucking bronco.
He's got the size of it
too, right? But just let him fill out a couple extra years, and we'll see. Because the offense has always been there for him. So let's see what he can do at the next level. I like that John Carlson comparable though, because there's times where you look at him in the own zone and you're like, "What the hell's going on?" But when the puck's on his stick, you're like, "Oh man." I understand now why he's that's what's going on right there. So I'm pretty high on him, all things considered. Still 3 stars because of the position he plays. If he was a right shot guy, it'd be 4. But left shot, just not a need. This is not a fit for the Ottawa Senators, but still 3 stars because I love the raw tools that this guy possesses.
Yeah, and I mean, on my scale, it's kind of similar because you had Kevin Korchinski at 2.5. I had him at 3, so I'm bumping Mintyukov up a little. I got him at 3.5 just because I think we're already seeing that defense getting better and the offense is still there. And with a weaker shot, still getting 17 goals, if he can work on that shot as well. So obviously, what that tells me is he gets into the right spots to have his shot work. He doesn't have to just rely on the fact that he's got a good shot from low percentage spots that are just going in. He's getting into the right areas and he's joining the rush at the right time and getting himself open for teammates for a good pass and a good opportunity. So I've got him at 3.5 stars.